He's checked by Congress. He's checked by the judicial.
Can make waste,
and he has
but
to
I mean, look, we're looking at a system of governance which is full of bloat and incompetence, and
they're lying to you. They're over
no, they're not.
I
can see our government and how it functions, and see how bloated and disgusting it is, and how much it could be cut.
So, Thomas, my friend, how are you?
Man, I'm doing pretty good.
Okay. Glad
pretty good. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a little bit. I haven't talked to you in a little while. Apparently you have a real life?
Yeah, that's a thing, unfortunately.
I am entirely unaware of what that is. Real life. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have one, so I don't know what you're going on about. So
Right. I see the beard, man. That's
isn't that nice?
That's nice. Yeah. Hell yeah.
I've been working on it since Christmas. So this is Christmas, and I've already had to shorten it one time because it got insane. So I put on like the level 5 shaver or something like that, and then took it down a little bit.
Nice.
So
yeah, I guess we haven't really. Someone says I'm a little loud.
Yeah, I got you. I've been working the levels to put us in the same place.
Cool. Yeah, I don't think we've talked since before the election.
I don't think we have. Yeah, it's been since old Donnie got elected. It was a bit of a surprise, but I mean, it was the closest election like ever.
Was it though?
I mean, yeah, it was one. He won by 1.8%. It was very
close. Of the popular vote. Yeah, but I mean, the college numbers, was a landslide.
The college was because of that 1%, because the college is stupid. It's set up poorly. 1% means you win the college in a landslide. That's dumb. The college is set up to where if you lose the popular vote, you could still win the college. The college is poorly.
I mean,
it's poorly.
It was not a surprise to me. I'll tell you that.
It was the closest election.
Do you remember when Biden dropped out?
Yes.
And was replaced with Harris, and I said, yes, it's over.
Yeah, and it was. There are numbers from inside the White House that it would have been more over if Biden had stuck in. She
for sure.
was. Would you agree to that? That Biden would have lost by more.
Yes,
I agree. Biden would have lost by more, and there's some numbers to suggest that as well. So everything I think is going to shit. You are interested in the economy, and you tend to lean that direction.
Certainly.
What I think, Elon's going to go to Fort Knox, misunderstand what is happening there, and cause fear, uncertainty, and doubt within the entire global economy. Do you think that am I overreacting here?
It's certainly a possibility. I don't know what he's going to do there, if we're being honest.
Oh, no one knows what he's going to do there, but it could go wrong. I recognize that I am projecting here. I am prognosticating a little bit, but I am worried that he's going to go there, say all the gold is gone, misunderstand everything that happens there, and say that America has been robbed somehow of billions and billions and billions of dollars.
That would certainly undermine our economic reach.
I think so, and that's what worries me. I am worried about that. I do worry that he will go there and fuck everything up, and then if he really is malicious, he will say, "Okay, you need to buy crypto."
I don't think Elon is malicious. I do think that he generally has the best interests of people at heart.
Okay. Okay. Oh, I think he's an idiot. I think he's dumb and wrong.
Oh, come on.
He's an idiot. He can be an idiot. I have heard the words that have come out of his mouth, and they aren't based on reality. They're based on stupid. They're based on what he thinks and what he feels and what he wants to be true. The 250-year-old people on Social Security, not true. They've been lying about how much they're saving, because he made these giant promises of cutting $2 billion, or $2 trillion, I think is what he said. They were going to cut $2 trillion.
Well,
that's a campaign promise, I recognize.
Not quite. So the cutting promise was $1 trillion.
It was 2.
And
at one point during the campaign,
hold on. So,
he said
I'm finished. Let me finish.
Sorry.
Give me a second.
Okay.
So the promise was to eliminate the $2 trillion deficit.
Okay.
Okay. The plan from the administration is cutting $1 trillion in spending and adding $1 trillion in revenue in order to get that deficit to close.
Okay.
So the revenue is supposedly going to come from the tariffs, which I don't think is going to add up to $1 trillion. So
okay. The tariffs, which are on and off and on and off and canceled and not canceled and only half implemented.
And from tariffs and increased economic activity, because with every increase in economic activity, you also get an increase to the revenue. Just the nature of how taxes work, right?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, but that's the plan, and I still think $1 trillion in spending cuts is it's achievable, but how soon is the question. I don't know if they can do it just with the Doge. I think you're going to need congressional action, and you're going to have to actually cut programs from the budget in order to get that done.
Right, and that, of course, it's possible, but how many people suffer because of it? I think a lot of people suffer because of it. I think you have to cut Medicaid, which makes poor people suffer. You have to cut Social Security, which makes people suffer. You have to cut Medicare, which makes people suffer. And they don't mind that. I think that they're on board for that kind of thing. They don't want suffering, but they want to cut the budget, even if it hurts people, because they're more interested in money, in numbers, in spending dollars.
I really think that
people.
You have to think about what is the cost versus the long-term benefit. Like, our government is bloated. The bureaucracy is ridiculous. If we are achieving a greater degree of efficiency as a result of these changes that are being made, some of which are good and some of which are not, then I think in the long term, it's beneficial to everyone.
I don't trust Elon and Donald Trump to make those decisions. We had
that's fine,
people running government efficiency, and they couldn't get it down any lower. Elon's just chopping things off.
Well, they
I
couldn't.
don't think they're
Maybe
smart
someone
enough.
else can.
Well, okay, somebody else.
And
can
sure, Elon is chopping things, but
good things.
Like,
healthy
what are the
things.
things that he's chopping? $50 million to condoms in Gaza. Do we need to spend that money?
Misinformation. It didn't go to Gaza. It went.
Where did it go?
It was $50 million in condoms to what's the name of that country? It wasn't Gaza, and it wasn't $100 million for Hamas, like literally Donald Trump said. It was $50 million in condoms to an African country. It was an African country. It wasn't Gaza. It was I don't remember which African country. Mozambique. Correct.
Yeah.
So Elon's right. He's wrong.
Do we need condoms in Mozambique?
Yes, we do.
$50 million to go there?
Yes.
How about $50 million for Americans? You know what I mean?
Americans get $50 million. Elon's promising $5,000 to everybody. He's a moron. He hates spending money, but his answer is to spend money. $50 million to Mozambique for condoms is soft power. There's an old saying, you catch more flies with honey. What does that saying mean? That you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. Being pleasant and nice to other countries makes the countries want to be your ally. Spending, $38 million to do a trans fucking parade in Venezuela makes Venezuela want to be our ally. There is an entire planet that we want to get along with, and you do that best by being polite to them, by being good to them,
by buying their friendship.
By buying their friendship. No. Yes,
I'm
literally
good on that. No,
you don't want to do that. You'd rather take their friendship with guns. Those are our two options. Man. Those are the two options. You buy their friendship with money, or you shoot them.
If you do business in a straightforward way, and you do it in a way that's deliberate and fair, then people will be your friend anyway. You don't have to buy friendship if you are just a good person or a good country, but it's so ridiculous.
What if they ask for help? What if they say, hey, can you do anything to help us out? Buying friendship is exactly what I want our government to do. I literally want it to do that. I want it to buy friendship. I want it to.
I don't know why Valhor is arguing with me. He says transactional relationships are toxic, and I'm not the one advocating for a transactional relationship.
I am. Well, friendship isn't transactional. I think what he's suggesting there is only transactional relationships are toxic. If only you had a friendship that was, I bought this thing for you and for $17, then you bought me a beer for $17 with the thing, and then I bought you $17 worth of donuts, and then you bought me $18 worth of beer at the bar, and then I had to buy you $18. It becomes a bit it becomes transactional. That's what I think he's getting at. I want our government to do things that make other people's lives better. Then they'll be nice to us. I think USAID was somebody was complaining about millions of dollars to create Sesame Street in Iran. I think that's a brilliant fucking idea. Are you against the idea of USAID spending American tax dollars on creating Sesame Street in Iran?
Yes.
The Iranian children will see it and have positive associations in their brain of America. Isn't that a helpful thing? Does that not increase our power?
I don't think it's valuable.
I think it's the only way to avoid war. We can go to war with Iran, and we can kill them, and we can shoot at them, we can blow them up, and we can do the things. We can force them to do things that we like. Or we can throw some money toward Elmo and make the Iranian children appreciate the United States.
Yeah, I don't think they will anyway. I think it's a waste of time and money.
Education's important. If they have a positive outlook of America, they'll be less likely to want to go to war with us. They'll be more accepting of the idea of dealing with us. Soft power.
The problem with Iran is not a matter of their particular outlook on any given political situation. The problem with Iran is they have a freaking radical Islamist as their head of state, and it's their their government. There's no way that you're going to Sesame Street your way out of that problem. It's just not happening.
Of course you can. We have two you and I agree on this. I don't like Iran's militaristic, theocratic Muslim government. I don't like it. You just complained about it. There are two ways to get rid of it. The Americans force them out, or the people of Iran change, either softly over many years of reform, or they do a little bit of a revolution themselves. And if Elmo can tell them, hey, America's good, America's not the great Satan, I'm on board for it. And that's what USAID is doing. Elmo for president. Absolutely. So, and that's what USAID is doing. Yes, the CIA uses USAID. I'm not even going to argue about that. That's true. The conspiracy theorists online are screaming about it. USAID is part of the CIA, yeah. But the CIA has long-term, hey, wouldn't America be stronger if Iran wasn't our enemy? And I think we would. America and American lives are improved by Iran being our ally. And it won't happen because of that dictatorship, that horrible government that they have. And we have hard power and we have soft power to change that.
Oh, I don't see the benefit in it. I think that the people of Iran, will eventually get sick of what they're dealing with, because they used to be a fairly liberal society, actually.
Right, and the CIA goofed that up.
And then, Ayatollah Khomeini eventually took power and changed everything.
Well, and that was our CIA helped him get into power back in the 60s and 70s, because the democratically elected person within Iran didn't want to sell America the oil. And then the American government was like, whoa, dude, we need that oil. We got to have that shit. And so we backed the wrong horse. America backing horses. Maybe if that was your argument against USAID, I might have a worse time defending it.
What do you mean? It kind of is, though, right? Like, my whole argument is we shouldn't be involved in this shit anyway.
We are, that way leads to isolationism. We don't talk to this group, we don't talk to that group.
America was isolationist for the greater majority of its history, and we should be. Yes.
No, we weren't. I don't think Sell me
We
on that. Sell
absolutely
me on
were.
that idea, because I don't believe you. I disagree.
We were isolationist until at least until World War One. Yes.
Maybe.
And in fact, we had a strict isolationist policy until that point.
So
Our reluctance to get involved in the World War was specifically because of our isolationist foreign policy. Like that was how we ran the country for so long,
okay.
and until 18 when the war started.
In 1918, we jump into World War One.
We didn't jump into World War One until it was underway for like 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And
jump into World War II until it had been going on for a little while as well. So
yeah, so our history has been a history of isolationism until about 100 years ago.
I mean, it's careful, but I don't know that that's isolationism.
If you pull it up, it'll Google will tell you.
Even then,
we had isolationism until World War One.
Okay, I don't like that idea anyway. We stopped being isolationist at that point, and that's fine with it's fine with me if that's where we draw the line. We were isolationist until World War One. I don't want to be isolationist. I don't think that that's a good idea. You live in a globe. Yeah, the shirt I'm wearing was made in Bangladesh, and I bought it in Seattle.
I mean,
we're not
I get that.
isolationists anymore.
I don't think that what I'm saying is particularly outside the scope of.
Okay, I mean, I'll agree with you then.
I mean,
okay, great. We were isolationist until World War One.
So
should we go back to it?
I think we should be more on that side of things than we should be in terms of expanding our influence. Like if our options are isolationism or globalism, I'll pick isolationism. Okay. But on the scale of those two things, I think that we should be to the isolationist side of center.
Okay, that is a position that you can take.
That's fine. I would much prefer that our government focuses on our interior problems rather than the exterior problems of the world.
And so not giving this off, and I think that weakens us, which is why I'm okay with USAID existing the way it did. Giving the money to these countries, helping them out, making them feel good about us, putting Elmo in Iran, I think helps us overall. And it is a globe. We need someone to deal with the other countries. They exist. And
sure they do. We have people to do that. We appoint them.
Unless they get chopped off by the Doge.
Well, I doubt that any ambassadorships will be chopped off by Doge. But that's what the purpose of those people are, right?
And if that ambassador said there's a problem in Ecuador, they would go through USAID to try and get some money sent to Ecuador. Is that not empower the ambassador?
Oh, well, it sure does. I mean,
okay.
I'm not arguing against that.
Okay.
But
USAID just died.
The things that USAID was doing do not seem to be productive in the way that we want it to be. Like, how could it possibly be that it costed that much to do those things? And on top of that, were they even still effective in achieving whatever it was that they were trying to achieve?
I agree with you. It's hard to determine the outcomes of a spending program. How effective was Elmo in Iran? How effective was the drag parade we put on in Ecuador? Impossible for anyone to determine. It's not a numerical thing. It's a feelings thing. You can't measure them. You could ask people afterward, I suppose. But even then, that's just their opinion, man. I agree with you. It is difficult to determine those things. But let's put some sociologists in charge. Let's put some diplomats in charge. Let's let them run the thing instead of a fake numbers guy like Elon.
On top of that, didn't Venezuela elect like a dictator?
I shouldn't have said Venezuela. That's why I changed it to Ecuador. Venezuela has Captain ANCAP, who was on stream.
Right.
Who was at CPAC. Let me see if I got that photo. He was next to Elon with his chainsaw.
So you know how if you push really hard for leftist things,
Elon
people
with his
tend
chainsaw
to have a reaction to it.
Captain ANCAP over here at CPAC. If you push leftist things, people have a reaction to it. Well, sure. Okay. So
So if you had a drag parade in
Mhm.
Venezuela, for example, that you paid
Well-
$38 million for,
I don't think. Okay. So we've given them $38 million to put on a drag parade in Venezuela.
do
Okay.
you think that that could be counterproductive and in fact push people away
To what
from
end?
Americanism?
It could be counterproductive. I mean, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. What is the goal? Who scheduled this? Which diplomat put this together, and what was their intention?
Well,
I'm a
that's the
diplomat,
thing is
and
I
want
can't I can't think of a a good reason to do this.
to make people feel good about America.
But what if it makes them feel bad?
Then you did a bad job. Try again next time. Learn from your mistake.
Well,
Do a better job. Just spend your time and money and effort elsewhere.
I guess what I'm saying is, I don't see the value in the efforts that have been put forth by the U.S. aid.
Okay. And
When the programs that have been cut are listed, it's like, yeah, we didn't need that. Or that seems just directly counterproductive.
counterproductive. Well, counterproductive to what? Depends on counterproductive. Depends
Well,
on what you're saying. If it did it raise a stock price? No. Did it produce a good or service? No. So it's very hard to measure.
Your argument is the soft power in terms
Yes.
of expanding America's influence,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Soft
And
power.
so the counterproductive is in terms of that is, in some instances, it seems to me that it's even possible that we've turned more people against us.
Okay. I have not heard anyone suggest that. I've seen no evidence of it. If you
Well,
create
again,
a hypothetical,
like you just said,
I'll
it's
bounce with
impossible
the
to quantify.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. So it's also impossible to quantify the I think the benefit that we're doing. But so I am painting a hypothetical. Paying money for these things will make people feel better about America. I recognize that's entirely hypothetical.
So I guess I'll pose another hypothetical for you then.
Sure.
Or just a question. If it's impossible to quantify the results of an endeavor, is the endeavor worth undertaking in the first place if it costs you something to begin?
Of course it is. Of course,
I don't think so.
it could be. It could be.
Because if you have no way of measuring the success of particular undertaking,
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Go on. I'm about
what are
to,
you even doing?
I'm about to trap you, but please,
Go ahead.
Please continue, Senator.
Sure.
Does
That was the whole
Okay.
question.
does
Go ahead.
justice exist?
Yes.
Okay. I don't see it on the periodic table anywhere.
Okay.
Is there a molecule of justice
You can measure and quantify the results of our justice system.
based on
Crime rates,
who
based on our
who feels
based on our economy,
feels like justice?
based on crime rates. I mean, without the justice system, the society collapses. You don't
the
have,
system of justice,
trade.
is to make people feel better about justice on its own. It is a thought process. It is a feeling you have. I feel
I don't
like
think it's as
justice
effective as you
happens.
think it is.
I feel like injustice has been done to me. I feel like I feel like I have been taken from. I feel like I have been hurt.
Sure,
So I
but
go to the
here's
justice
the thing,
system.
though, is that injustice, you recognize it because it was something that was unfair
Fair
or wrong.
is nothing
right?
but a feeling that a human being has.
Oh, give me a break. Everyone
It's
feels that.
Everyone feels it. Yes, it's
Even
so,
animals feel that,
yes,
though.
Animals feel
can
it too.
recognize fairness.
But rocks don't,
Have you
and
ever seen
trees
you ever seen that video of the two monkeys in the cages next to each other?
Mhm.
And the one is being given like a banana, right? Chunks of banana as their food. And then they tried to feed the other monkey some bullshit, and the monkey freaked the fuck out
Yeah, he did
because the other one was getting the bananas,
Yeah,
right?
he felt.
We recognize
Unfair.
what fairness is
Yeah.
on a biological level, and most of our justice system comes from that.
I agree
There-
with you there.
But
I'm
you-
agreeing
and you
with you.
can-
You're just not
Okay,
willing
now-
to call it a feeling.
Here's the thing though, is when people have a generally more negative feeling,
Mhm.
sure, about the society that they live in, things get worse. People
I agree.
tend to behave more selfishly, more aggressively, and your society ceases to function. And so, yes, you actually can quantify the results of your justice system based on
Yes,
people's behavior.
we can. I'm on board with you.
And so, okay, well then,
So it's based on
you're,
feelings.
you're
The quantification comes later. The quantification comes afterward. The quantification comes at the end of the process. The beginning, the basis, is feelings. And that's why I support U.S. aid. Making people have those good feelings about America will lead to those ends that can be measured and can be quantified. It is difficult. In theory, yes, I agree. It's a theory. Sociology is a complicated, soft science. I totally recognize that. I think that that's fine. Do what a sociologist would think would help people feel better about the American system. If the American system's running properly and not run by Elon and Donald Trump, think that the American system has merit, value, importance, and want more people to have it. I don't want Iran run by a theocratic dictatorship. Theocratic dictatorships aren't good, and that's a feeling I have, and I would like them to have what America has. And if someone comes up with a better system, then I'll feel about that too.
I don't think it's our responsibility to deal with that, and I also don't think that's what our focus should be on. I'm perfectly happy to cut those programs and focus our efforts on bettering things for American citizens.
And that is a political stance. I see that stance. I recognize that stance, and I accept that that is a stance that someone could have, and it's legitimate to have that. If we were spending way too much, cut back on it. I dig it.
And we are spending far too much. And I'll give a credit to your arguments on at least one point, which is corporations are greedy.
Okay.
And they will take advantage of the government when they can. The condoms in Mozambique, for example. How many condoms actually got sent to Mozambique and were used in Mozambique?
I do not know the specifics, but
for $50 million.
I don't know the specifics.
Did we even get a condom for every dollar?
I don't know.
Probably not.
Probably not. Was there some?
Were there any condoms in the first place?
Was there some middle-man who skimmed off the top? Entirely possible.
That's what I'm asking.
I'm not saying that there wasn't. There could be. That would need to be measured and investigated. Donald Trump fired all the attorneys general. He fired lots and lots of attorneys general who could have looked into that for you. They could have looked into that. Literally looked into exactly that question.
He fired them. Is he replacing them?
No, he got rid of them. He chopped them off. The people who could literally look into your question have been fired because Donald Trump and Elon Musk are reckless. Remember, I mean, you saw last week or 2 weeks ago where they fired the nuclear people and then rehired them? That's reckless. They're firing people and then rehiring the important ones. Reckless.
That sounds fine, actually.
Why is that fine? They fired them and then they said, hey, wait, never mind. They could have methodically, intelligently planned to determine who needs to be removed. If they were putting together a plan on who needs to be removed and put intelligent people in making this decision, I wouldn't be as upset about it as I am. But they're chopping things and then regretting it and then unchopping them because I
actually think that that's a positive. They are making aggressive cuts, except for when they recognize that they made a mistake, they're going back and correcting it. That's wasteful. That's the opposite of being reckless.
Haste makes waste. Hastily, they fired those attorney generals. Now we can't look into how many condoms got there. Hastily, they fired those nuclear people, and wastefully, they rehired them. Haste makes waste. Donald Trump and Elon Musk are hasty, which means they will be wasty. What waste? By firing them and then rehiring them, you have complicated the process. You by promising people that they can have the buyout, that if you resign right now, you get 8 months worth of pay or something like that. And then they're not understanding that what the rules are. Fake memos are going out. Memos from people who aren't responsible for firing people are coming out telling you that you're fired. Then you come in the next day and you're actually not. And then they're being challenged in the court. Is Elon a member of the government or not? Sometimes he is, sometimes he isn't. Sometimes he's in charge of Doge, and sometimes he isn't. They're
Okay,
being hasty.
okay.
They're wasteful.
They made a mistake,
Mm-hmm.
recognized it, and corrected it.
Great. What if their next mistake isn't correctable?
Opposite of being reckless.
That is literally reckless. That's reckless. I made a mistake and now I have to fix it. I moved with haste and I created waste. If they were slow, careful, and methodical, like the government is supposed to be, I want the government to move slowly.
They only have 4 years to correct. Actually, 2 years, because the Doge expires in 2027, I think. 2026, maybe?
That mistake with
2026
was made out of haste.
I mean, look.
They're chopping things.
They're moving quick.
Right.
They have to. They only have so much time.
They could move carefully, but they don't want to move carefully because they want to be cool guys. They want to stand on
shit to do, man.
No.
Like, what do you want? Like, I prefer the speed of movement in
the government has
changes,
the ability to cause irreparable harm to many, many, many people. If they chop off the wrong thing, lots of people will be harmed. If perhaps you take a chainsaw to the government, things could go poorly.
Sure, but they could also continue to be just fine. Remember that time when Elon bought Twitter?
Yeah, terrible fucking idea.
And he cut like 75% of their workforce.
Uh-huh.
Does Twitter still work?
Barely. It functions
it's definitely
poorly.
Still fucking
it
works.
Functions more poorly today than it did back then.
I have
fact
not noticed a
checks
difference.
less often. It has more Nazis and less information. It has more bad people
a question of
and
moderation.
less information. Right, because they killed all the moderators. They got rid of them all. It's more misinformation.
And Elon
less
specifically,
money. They're making less money.
Elon specifically has a thing about freedom of speech, and when he purchased Twitter and cut all the moderators, he also changed the content guidelines. That's why you're having that. It's not a matter of the function of Twitter, though. Twitter still functions just fine.
They had outages. They had difficulties getting everything up and running. There were hiccups on a technical level that they had, and it's worth less money now than it was when he bought it.
It is because advertisers don't like the reduced moderation.
Right. They don't like their Coca-Cola ad being next to a Nazi post.
Correct.
So they choose not to do business.
I don't think the value of the valuation of the company is relevant in this situation. What I'm talking about is 3/4 of the staff at Twitter got fired, and the company still runs. Like the website is still up and it still functions and everyone still uses it.
It runs more poorly than it did. It has taken a hit.
I think it works just fine.
Then what we've got is, so since we're on this topic, I'm going to bring this up. I don't know if you've seen it. From Business Insider, if Elon Musk X threatened a big ad company with a government interference, that's not okay. Because Elon is now a member of the government. And if you're an ad company and you pull your ads, do you get harmed by the government?
Did he do that?
He's threatened it.
Well, the article says if.
Yeah. Here's a 100% hypothetical scenario. It says a big tech CEO calls up a big ad agency and tells them it'd be a good idea to spend more money with his company, because if they don't, he knows people in the U.S. government. That would never happen, except that maybe it has been happening, and the person who is allegedly sending this message is Linda Yaccarino, the CEO of X, which of course owned by Elon Musk, who works for Donald Trump, donated more than $250 million, blah, blah, blah.
Where's the claim?
The Wall Street Journal.
Who is making the claim?
The Wall Street Journal reports that Yaccarino and her lieutenants have been pressuring an Interpublic Group, one of the world's biggest ad agencies, to get its clients to spend more money on X, handing over IPG's head a proposal deal to sell itself to its rival Omnicom, which may need regulatory approval for the U.S. Its IPG execs interpreted X's messaging as a reminder that the Trump administration could slow down that deal, the Journal's veteran ad reporter Suzanne wrote. So the executives interpreted X messaging as a reminder that Donald Trump's administration could slow down the deal, which means they would, if Donald Trump's administration chose to slow down that deal, they suffer. And they are worried that this is what's happening. If Elon tells Trump, stop that deal, he will.
those. Can you scroll back up and tell me
Sorry.
who Yacarino is again?
Oh, she's the CEO of X, of Twitter. The CEO, the actual person who runs it.
Okay.
Sorry. Elon owns it,
So
but she does all the work.
if these claims are true, there are two possibilities that I see.
Sure.
Or rather, two possibilities and two outcomes. So, possibility number one is the one that's being suggested by this article, which is Elon has told Yacarino and the board of directors at X, hey, I have all this authority, and if you run into any problems, let me know, and we'll.
I know a guy at the White House. Yeah, I know a guy at the White House. Okay.
The other one is that she is the CEO of X, which is owned by Elon, and is making these threats on her own without reassurances from him.
Okay. Entirely possible.
There's actually a third option, which is that these threats are not real.
It's not real. Yeah. Okay.
So, but we'll go with the assumption that the threats are real, and then those are the two possibilities.
Okay.
Okay. If it's under Elon's, blessing, I suppose, that is a problem. I agree with you. If it's not, then it should be a change in management at X as a result. Like, you can't make these kinds of threats and get away with it, basically. So having this report out, that's what I expect as a result, is if it turns out that they were making these kinds of threats, I would expect to see a new CEO at X in the next couple months.
Okay. I'm worried that there is no law anymore.
Oh, there's plenty of there's law.
But Donald Trump is in charge of the FCC and the Securities and Exchange Commission. He's put out a specific, I am slightly changing topics here, but I think it's where we're headed in this conversation. His latest, one of his latest executive orders, he puts out a new one every 10 minutes, ensuring accountability for all agencies. Has suggested
every president does that, by the way.
Yeah, well,
in their first few months,
I know
they sign
do.
like 400 of those.
I know they do. He does it while live on TV, and a lot of his are being challenged in court. And then he ignores that challenge, which is, I think, part of the reason why I say we don't have a law anymore.
Do you think that the streaming of the day-to-day activities in the Oval Office is a bad thing?
I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that
I think it's a very positive thing.
I think it's a good thing for him to do. He recognizes it. Joe Biden couldn't fucking talk into a camera for more than 4 minutes, which is why he lost. Which is why he was a bad candidate.
I mean,
Donald Trump
don't you think that's just a good thing in general?
It is a good thing.
To have a president that is
yes.
That's the most transparency you're going to get out of an administration.
Not quite. That's not looking into the camera and telling people that I am, in fact, Mr. Rogers from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood is not transparency. It's a lie. Donald Trump goes onto the TV and tells you lies. That's not transparency.
You're seeing the day-to-day in the Oval Office.
Seeing the day-to-day.
Signing of papers.
Right. He signed on TV an executive order challenging the 14th Amendment of the Constitution.
You're never getting that out of the Biden administration.
I know you're not getting that out of the Biden administration. He can't sit in front of a camera for more than 4 minutes. I agree.
We didn't get that out of the Obama administration.
I agree. Because they were more interested in running the government than the show of running the government. If he goes onto the TV every day and tells lies, that's not a good thing. That's not transparency, is what I'm saying.
Sure. I don't agree with you.
Elon comes onto Chancellor Elon was in the Oval Office telling lies and calling it transparency. It's not. We have to go and check the transparency is posting up the receipts, posting the paperwork, posting the documents that can be followed and tracked. Putting documents in front of a judge is transparency. Going into the Oval Office and saying, I saved billions of dollars. Trust me, bro. Not transparency. He's calling it transparency, but it isn't. Anyway, with the point I was getting to, the thing I was steering us towards, is this executive order Previous administrations have called so-called independent regulatory agencies to operate with minimal presidential supervision. These regulatory agencies currently exercise substantial executive authority without sufficient accountability to the president and through him to the American people. Moreover, these regulatory agencies have been permitted to promulgate significant regulations without review by the president. This one, I think, these agencies can't do anything without the president's approval and won't do anything unless he says yes or no. And I don't trust him. I think he is going to use this little bit right here to control the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC. He is taking control of the FCC to divvy out fines however he wants. If you say a true thing that he doesn't like, you get investigated by the FCC. If you say a lie that he does like, you don't face FCC regulation. This is a accusation of things that are going to happen in the future. I am predicting. Yes.
Oh.
This hasn't happened yet. But do you think
disagree with your predictions?
Okay. You often do, and that's fine.
I think it's possible, sure, but do I think it will happen? Do I think it's probable? No.
Okay. And I think this is part of the baby stepping towards fascism. We think it's probably not going to happen, but then when it does, the MAGA faithful will defend it. They'll say it's fine, it's okay. It's actually okay to go against Congress and cut U.S. aid, even though they said it was acceptable to spend that money. Congress said spend that money, but it's okay for Donald Trump to get rid of it because it's about $100 million of condoms to Hamas.
So, I think that a big part of fascism is when you have absolute control over something. If there's something that goes wrong, people can point to that and be like, that guy is the problem. I think that the authority in the government has expanded while also managing to mask that same level of accountability. I think our government has become more authoritarian over time, over the last several decades. And our bureaucracy is covering it up. I almost would prefer a situation where we don't have so much bureaucracy and we can be like, yeah, you're the problem.
That's authoritarianism, right? Donald Trump is the authority. He gets to say what goes. He gets to say what doesn't go. He decides willy-nilly. And I don't think
so. I think that when we have a democratically elected president who we can point to and say, you made the mistake, that's a positive. It's the unelected bureaucrats, including Elon Musk at this point, who I think are the problem. And we have so much bureaucracy that we can't point to any one of them individually and be like, you have to go. And that's what the whole, what all these cuts that Doge is making that's what it's fixing, in my opinion, is you can point to someone in the government and be like, you made a mistake, it's your fault. It's not the fault of some overhead process, or it's not like we can't identify whose mistake this was or what happened here. When you cut the bureaucracy, you have accountability.
Yes. When you cut the bureaucracy, you have more individual personal accountability. But the people who are there also have more power. Elon gets to cut this, and he gets to cut that, because we got rid of the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy is simpler if Donald Trump just gets to decide who gets FCC fines and who doesn't. According to that executive order, he can decide who gets an FCC fine and who does not. That is accountability, yes. We can know who gets them and who doesn't, but it's also his authority that gets to make that decision. If one guy makes all the decisions, I agree. It is more accountable because we can easily point at that guy. But it's also authoritarian.
Guess what? There's another election in 3 years.
Unless he also controls the Federal Voting Commission, which he does. The votes are gonna be federally. I mean, there is a federal bureau in charge of voting. Donald Trump will take control of it. And I don't trust him in that situation. I do not trust Elon if they're in charge of the federal voting programs.
Do you think that they are going to take people's ability to vote away from them?
Yes. They already do it through sneaky, underhanded tactics, throwing voters off the rolls, pretending that there are millions of... Donald Trump lied to you when he said 4 million illegals voted for Hillary Clinton. He lied to you. He lied to me. He lied to everybody. He won that first time, and he put together a commission of federal officers, attorneys general, to search it. They didn't find it. They closed it down and shut the fuck up. He's going to lie about how many people vote for the next person. He lied about who voted in 2020. He still lies about who won in 2020. Constantly. He lies about federal elections. He is now in charge of federal elections.
Maybe a bunch of illegals did not vote in 2016.
I mean, there's no evidence for 4 million of them.
The
There's no
2020 election is still suspect to me. So,
because
I mean,
he lies a lot, and the people who want him to benefit lie for him.
Oh,
The evidence
it's
suggests
just because
that there was no...
we have like 145 million voters in every election. 2000, 2004, 2008, 2012, 2016, and 2024. We had about 145 million voters. And somehow in 2020, we had like 170 million.
Right. Because everybody was bored. They didn't have fucking TV. They couldn't go out and have a real life because COVID kept them all inside. COVID kept them watching the TV. You remember the Donald Trump daily COVID show? I remember that. He came on the TV every single day to tell us how COVID was going. And the people watched that and said, oh shit, this guy's fucking dumb. And then they voted against him. Those people then got to go outside starting in 2022 or so, and they didn't show up to vote in 2024. I'm not saying that he cheated in this past election. I see no evidence to suggest that he cheated in 2024. I see no evidence that Joe Biden cheated in 2020. I see no evidence that Hillary cheated in 2016. But he'll tell you that they did, without evidence, without reality. He will tell you that 2020 was stolen from him. And that makes me not trust him when he is in charge now of the entire federal election. And he will be, because he's gobbling up power. He's gobbling up the unitary executive theory that he is operating under. That
so
makes me nervous.
What you're suggesting, hold on, is not that he's going to clean up the voter process. It's that he's going to cheat.
Yes, or throw off people that he doesn't like. And what can you do about it? The attorneys general have been fired. The people who would investigate that are gone. The people who would look into that have been removed and caught off by Doge. You can't do anything about that. You can complain about it. I recognize that it is a prediction, but he is in position to cheat with impunity. He is in a position to control the entire federal government with impunity, without judges coming down on him, without the people suing.
That's wrong. With judges and people suing, because that's part of our process. That's gonna happen. But
J.D. Vance has already talked about ignoring the judges.
Yeah, except for the fact that it usually just doesn't happen, and when it does, there's problems.
It's coming. That's what I'm telling you. That's what I'm thinking.
We'll see.
It is coming. Elon Musk doesn't have the authority, and Doge does not have the authority to cut off spending that Congress has already appropriated. That's against the Constitution, yet they're doing it.
Unless that spending that's been appropriated was discretional for the president, and the USAID is an executive branch office that the president created via executive order in the first place.
Okay, Congress gave them the money. Congress determines the money. So
Congress gave the president the money, and then
so there is some reason to sue. He is being sued a lot. Damn near every one of his executive orders is being challenged in court.
Yes.
Okay, because
standard.
He's reckless.
I mean, that's normal.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, if you were careful and slow and methodical and intelligent in your moves, you wouldn't be making illegal moves.
I'll tell you that everyone. No. Look, every one of those executive orders is lawful, and they're all going to win their court challenges eventually because they're lawful. And the fact is, when you have malicious people opposing you, they are going to use everything at their disposal to do it. The challenges, the legal ones, are just another mechanism of opposition that's being used right now. But those executive orders are lawful and they'll be upheld.
Were Joe Biden's executive orders lawful?
Yes.
Okay. You then subscribe to the unitary executive theory. It is a legal theory that says the unitary executive, being the one guy in charge, the executive, which is Donald Trump, which is the president, whoever happens to be, that they are in charge of the government and they tell everybody what to do.
Well, they're in charge of the executive branch of the government.
Right, and the congressional branch
the judiciary
and the judicial
branch is the one that's making that challenge, right?
Well,
So the
other
reason
two
that I
branches
can
don't
say,
do that.
well, hold on, the reason that I can say that all of Joe Biden's executive orders were lawful is because I guarantee you every one of them was also challenged judicially, and the judiciary upheld those executive orders.
They upheld some
in the
of
end.
them. It would not surprise me if they challenged them. Didn't the
Some of them have
get
been
challenged
overturned, yes, and in that case, they're not executive orders anymore. They're gone.
But were they legal? They were legal. They got challenged. They got shot down.
Then they weren't legal.
Then they
in
weren't
the end.
legal. Okay, great. Donald Trump.
So
is doing
when
things
at
that
the end
are
of the
going to be
day,
overturned.
at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
are Trump's executive orders going to be overturned?
I think so. Yes, unless he throws out the judges. Unless the
Which
judges
ones do you
get
think are
removed.
going to be overturned?
The one about the 14th. Well, I mean, we can look at them.
Well, the 14th one is a very interesting move on his part. I will say is that is an attempt to eliminate the anchor baby problem, basically.
It's an attempt to change the Constitution.
It's not.
Yeah, it is.
And we've had the conversation about the 14th Amendment before.
We have, and you've yet to move me on it.
I think you agreed with me that it was one of the more poorly written.
It was the second
amendments.
that was written poorly. I can see a difficulty I can see a flaw in the 14th, but the way it's been interpreted has been interpreted for a very long time.
Sure, but I mean, Trump is right when he says that was not intended to just give citizenship to anyone who pops out a baby here. It was designed to ensure that slaves and their children would be granted citizenship and provided all of the rights thereunto pertaining. The birthright citizenship by the 14th for everyone who's born here and under our jurisdiction was not designed so that someone can walk across our border and pop out a baby and that baby is a U.S. citizen. That's not what that was for. It wasn't the intent. Trump is right when he said that.
Amazing. So, in their haste, they made a mistake. In writing
I don't
the 14th
think
Amendment,
that they ever
wrote it
foresaw
and did not see the consequences.
the landscape has changed so much in the time since then. Like the problem of immigration, of illegal immigrations from South America specifically, was not even a question back then. It just wasn't. Like, they couldn't have possibly foreseen this problem that we're having and the way that the 14th Amendment is being abused.
Unintended consequences are what you're talking about. And I
I'm
recognize
talking
that's
about
a consequence that they did not intend. I can even accept that they didn't intend for this to be the consequence. If the government moves too fast, if the government makes hasty decisions, there will be unintended consequences, which is why they need to move slowly with a very, very large bureaucracy.
No, I'm talking about, it's almost like you can't predict where we're going to be, and I can't predict where we're going to be in 150 years.
I agree.
Which is when they wrote the 14th Amendment in the late 1800s.
Okay. Hypothetically, could they have written it better?
With the benefit of hindsight, 150 years of hindsight, sure, they could have.
If they had spent 6 more weeks in a think tank, I don't know what they had. I don't think they had think tanks back then. Could they have worded it better?
Nope.
If they had spent more time crafting the language, could they have done a better job?
And I'll tell you why I doubt it, because they could not have foreseen the issue that we are having right now. They would never have conceived of the problem in the first place to know that they needed to write something to close that problem.
Okay. And
so no, they never would have fixed it with more time taken.
I'm not saying fixed.
And then you would spend 6 more weeks with slaves that don't have rights.
Okay. So this gets to something that I think is important. I want the government to move slowly and carefully. And from what you just told me, you just want them to act.
I prefer action to inaction, yes.
Okay. That leads to haste makes waste. I keep making this comparison. The reason I keep pointing at it is because I think that they might, I don't know how long it took them to write that, but unintended consequences are a result of hasty decisions. And the more haste you have, the more actions you take recklessly, the more unintended consequences you will have. Elon is making
yes.
Elon and Trump.
But then you'll also have actions that you take with intended consequences and intended results. And it's not action for action's sake. It's action for the sake of results that you're looking for. It's deliberate actions.
Okay, and I'm not making that. I'm not making that accusation at you right now, Thomas. I'm not. Action for action's sake. I don't think that that's where you're at. You have a goal and you move towards it.
Yes.
And you're thinking that's what Elon is doing, but I think Elon's a moron and an idiot who doesn't understand how accounting works.
I don't think he's a moron.
In his moronic action to accomplish the goal, he harms people. He harms our government. He harms the American people.
I think that he has had too much success to be a moron. His track record speaks for itself. He owns how many companies? 6, 7?
Mm-hmm.
Including one of the cutting edge companies on the electric vehicles market, one of the cutting edge companies in space travel, one of the leading companies in communication, which he bought, Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how a moron could.
He hires the right people.
That's not moronic then. And if he's
that's
hiring the right people,
he can have.
Do you think that he is making the choices to make the cuts that he's making on his own?
Yes.
He's not.
I think I've seen the people that want with the 20-year-old 4chan neo-Nazis that walked into the Department of Education. They started plugging in their own equipment.
You know how
4chan goobers. They're
20-year-olds. There's the saying that dog bites man is not a news story, but man bites dog is.
Right, because it's exciting.
So when you hear about the ones that get into a place where they're not supposed to be,
mm-hmm.
you hear about it a lot. But that instance, which I don't know that particular story, but in that instance, you're hearing about it because it's out of the norm. When you have teams for the Department of Government Efficiency in almost every department of government now, at least they're supposed to be, according to the executive order, teams
mm-hmm.
of about 4.
Mm-hmm.
You hear about one of those, how many teams? 50? 100?
We don't know because there's no transparency. It is whatever Elon says it is. He's not offering receipts. He's not offering documentation. He's not telling you who these people are. When a reporter looked at the video of these people doing it and then listed their names, Elon on Twitter said it was a crime to list the names of the people in the Doge. Sounds like a fucking shadow government to me. Sounds like a fucking deep state. You're not allowed to know who's in charge of the Doge, Thomas. You're not allowed to know their names. If you looked into who they are, you might dox them and you might threaten them. And it's a shadow government. He doesn't want you to know who's in charge. He doesn't want you to know what he's doing. And that makes me nervous.
I couldn't tell you who's in any particular
You can.
layer of the bureaucracy of the government.
You can. That's public information. You just haven't looked it up. I don't know who the Treasury of Secretary was in 1974. I can find it, though, can't I? I could look into that. I don't know who was a member of the USA.
Okay, all right. Well, let's do this right now.
I could.
Tell me who the Secretary of the Treasury is right now.
Right now? I don't know.
Yeah, pull it up.
I could Google it.
Go ahead.
I will. Let's go to the Google. Current Secretary of Treasury. Scott Bessent.
All right. And now, tell me everybody who works in his office.
I might be able to.
I don't think you can.
Now,
I just don't think
I'm not
you can.
telling you every single person that works there is going to be available on Google. But you know who does know every single person that works there? Scott Bessent. He knows every single person that works there because they filled out government paperwork. They filled out the appropriate application to get the job. They were hired. They documented that. And apparently it goes into a limestone cave, which is great, so that we can have it. Can I also look up the Doge people? Probably not.
Well, you can
I
certainly
can't
look
Google
up
them. I can't
Elon
Google,
Musk.
I can look up Elon Musk, and I could probably Google some of the people that work for him, but he doesn't have the reporting requirements that Scott Bessent does. Scott Bessent has to keep government records. Elon doesn't. Scott Bessent has to determine how many people are in each department and know their names, social security numbers, and know about them, be legally responsible for them. Elon doesn't. If one of those Doge boys, if one of these, I'm calling them 4chan neo-Nazis, they live on the poll board on 4chan, does a crime, one, how would you know? Two, who's held responsible? I'm thinking that maybe nobody knows. If it's a terrible, egregious crime, yeah, we can try and hold Elon responsible, but he'll just say, nah, it wasn't me. We got rid of him. We fired that guy. Don't worry. Scott Bessent, on the other hand, might actually legally be responsible if one of his Treasury Department people, because they have rules in place. They have laws. They have an entire system. Elon's bypassing all the systems.
Yeah, the systems are bloated. They need...
The systems are the only things that keep us from being robbed.
They're keeping us from being robbed. No.
Yes.
They may be robbing us. That's the problem, is we don't know.
No, they're paying us. We're paying them. That's the difference. We're paying the bureaucracy. Yes, we are paying for a bureaucracy. But the bureaucracy keeps accounting, keeps detailed records. It keeps a list of things that,
in theory,
are entirely boring. Is it public? The amount of money that USAID is spending is public. What they're spending it on is public. I don't think Elon's as public as that. It's just boring. It's not fun to look at. Bureaucracy is long and slow and boring, and I think that's the point of it.
I don't think it's beneficial. And on top of that, I think it's costly. Change of subject really quick.
Sure.
You know what's really bureaucratic is our military.
Yes, very much. I agree.
If those systems are so good and so efficient, how come the Pentagon hasn't passed an audit in like 30 years?
Because either it's too big and you can't wrap your head around it, or because they don't want to, because they...
How come none of our individual armed forces, except for the Army and the Coast Guard, have passed an audit in the last 30 years? So we're getting smaller from the entire Pentagon to individual branches of our military. How come they haven't passed those audits?
Because they're gigantic.
Their bureaucratic system, bureaucracy is supposed to keep accounting of all the money and save taxpayer dollars.
Yes.
Is it working?
No.
No, it's
Make
not.
the bureaucracy
so maybe it should
better.
Be cut.
Make the bureaucracy better. Don't just chop it off willy-nilly. Don't take a chainsaw to it. Elon's going to take a chainsaw to it. There will be less accountability. There will be less bureaucracy, and we will know less about where that money goes. You think they're failing audits now? Wait until nobody has any paperwork. Wait until there's thousands of people who were pushing papers and they stopped. It will not only fail more, there will be more money missing. There will be more unaccounted for spending. There will be more people who don't know what's going on.
Or, here's an idea. There could be less people, and when those people mess up, we know who they were and what they did.
I can't imagine how. A smaller government would have fewer workers, sure, and we could hold them responsible, sure, but how? The people who check on those things are gone. The people who do the bureaucracy are gone.
The bureaucracy isn't working.
What is an audit? An audit is bureaucratic in its very nature. An audit is bureaucracy.
Yeah, you go back and you look at all the papers, and yes, you need employees to do that.
And you killed all the bureaucracy. So it's just trust me, bro. Trust me, bro. We spent that money.
But usually an audit is done by an agency that's outside of the agency being audited.
Elon
that's
hates
good.
agencies.
That goes for companies too.
Elon hates agencies.
Internal audits are, we investigated ourselves and found nothing wrong.
I agree that that's a problem.
External ones are, yes, bureaucratic, but they're usually performed by someone else anyway.
Okay. And if Elon doesn't want the answer, he won't ask the question. And that's what makes me nervous. I mean, if he doesn't want anybody to know about the things because it would hurt him or would bother him, they just won't ask. That's what I'm getting at. Trust me, bro. I think this right here leads into what we're talking about. Doge's only public ledger is riddled with mistakes. The figures from Elon Musk's team of outsiders represent billions of government cuts. They are also full of accounting errors, outdated data, and other miscalculations.
Give me 2 seconds, and I'll be right back, and then we can start this article.
If you're watching, if you're paying attention, hop in a chat, tell me what you're thinking, tell me what you're feeling. Going over to the Discord, I can list the Discord. There's the Discord link. Going over there, tell us what you're thinking, tell us what you're feeling. Hop into chat. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a something to talk about. Leave links over there. You can leave links to fun stories that you think are interesting. I'll bring them up on screen and we'll talk about them. We're going to take a bubble break. Look, there's a little doggy. There's a little doggy right here. I'm going to grab him. I'm going to grab a doggy.
Oh, man.
I've got a doggy. Oh, there he is. It's Bobo. Hi, everybody.
There he is.
This is Bobo, the baby bark boy. He is very messy today because it was raining on his morning walk, so he is a mess. So he is very shagadelic. It's Bobo. And then I put the timestamp. I'm going to start putting the timestamps in case somebody just wants to see Bobo, which I agree. They should just watch this for cute doggies. Politics is boring nerd shit, and I put a timestamp so you can see the dog. Got to juice the numbers somehow. So let's see. I posted everything up. So yeah, this one. I think this is what makes me nervous about it. I can send you this link if you'd like, or we can just read it together.
We can just read it together. It's fine.
Okay, let's see. Elon Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency say that they have saved the federal government $55 billion through staff reductions, lease cancellations, and a long list of terminated contracts published online this week as the wall of receipts. President Trump has been celebrating the published savings, even musing about a proposal to mail checks to all Americans to reimburse them for the Doge dividend. But the math that could back up those checks is marred with accounting errors, incorrect assumptions, outdated data, and other mistakes, according to the New York Times and list of all the contracts listed. While the Doge team has surely cut some number of billions of dollars, its slapdash accounting adds to the pattern of recklessness by the group, which has recently gained access to sensitive government payment systems. Some contracts...
So, a couple of things.
Sure.
I guess the first thing is that I don't agree with the idea of a Doge dividend in the first place.
I think it's a terrible idea as well.
Yeah, they're making these cuts because we're over budget.
Mm-hmm.
Until we are under budget, these cuts are just we're overspending and we need to stop spending. The idea of a Doge dividend would suggest that we're not over budget, and when we cut these, that's money we can just give back to the American taxpayer. We can't.
Mm-hmm.
So I disagree with Trump on this one.
Okay, and it seems to me like a publicity stunt.
I would agree.
I think Trump and Elon are stuntmen.
There is some level of stunt doing in politics.
Okay. All politics.
This is the same.
You're right.
It's the same as Biden and Harris's promise to cancel all of the student debt in the country. Give me a fucking break. It was never going to happen.
It could have happened, but a bunch of courts got in the way. He signed it in an executive order, and that made it law. The judges said
an illegal executive
not allowed
order
to have
got
it.
overturned by a judge. Yeah.
Okay, why? I mean, it is a bread from the circus. That's what Shinsinto's saying. Bread from the circus. I agree. The Doge dividend is a bread from the circus, and so would the...
Well, the why is because we have rules, and even Trump has to follow them.
I don't think he does, but... Okay.
And so does Biden, and the executive orders don't absolve the existence of rules. They still have to follow them.
Okay.
That's why.
I know this is off the rails, but I would support the government forgiving student debt before I supported them doing a Doge dividend. One seems a little bit more of a good idea.
I view them as the same thing.
Okay. It seems the first seems like a better idea than this one.
Does it though?
Yes.
I don't think so.
The people are hurting.
I completely disagree.
The people are hurting because of the rule. I agree. Okay. So back on track. Let's some contracts the group claims credit for were double or triple counted. Another initially contained an error that inflated the totals by billions of dollars. In at least one instance, the group claimed an entire contract has been canceled when only part of that work had been halted. In others contracts, the group said it had closed were actually ended under the Biden administration. The canceled contracts listed on the website make up a small part of the $55 billion total the group estimated it had found so far. It was not possible to independently verify. It's not possible to independently verify that number or other totals on the site with the evidence provided. This is why I'm saying it's not transparent. Trust me, bro. We saved $55 billion. No, we can't give you evidence. No, we cannot give you paperwork. Trust me.
Hold on a second. That's not what was being said. So, do you think that if the text of the contracts was asked for, that it would not be provided? Has it been asked for? And what was the result of that asking? Right? We have a process for this. It's called FOIA.
And Doge isn't required to answer FOIA, according to the president.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
So, whoa. I was about to read.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't know you were reading. Sorry. I thought you were going to go on about FOIA. Where did that one go?
Yeah.
Shit.
But the thing you had highlighted there.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Sorry.
Did not say that Doge refused to provide the information that, or provide the contracts or whatever it is. It's they weren't able to independently verify those things with what was provided.
Right.
Okay.
Because they didn't give enough.
So hold on a second.
Okay.
No. You specifically were saying that Doge was refusing to provide this information. The fact is that it has not been provided, but we don't know if it's been asked for, if it was provided to anyone in the first place. I don't think that this is a deliberate obfuscation of information. I think that when the information is asked for, if it is then not forthcoming, then there's a problem. But that's all I'm arguing about is I don't think that this is a situation where the information was requested and denied.
Has been.
According to who?
Doge's millions. Let's see. Clicked the wrong button. As Musk and Trump government, their axe-cutting agency gets cash infusion. Well, that's not what I wanted. Stupid headlines. Cruz sues the U.S. Doge service to compel transparency. They fired the people who do FOIA requests. A cadre of largely unidentified actors in the so-called Department of Government Efficiency are controlling major government functions. No oversight and meaningful transparency, blah, blah, blah. Let me find the right one.
Okay, and this is our
records
system
should be
working.
preserved so that when the public requests them, they can easily and readily accessible. If the administration value transparency, following the records of laws and priority, instead, U.S. Doge Service and OMB are acting as though the law doesn't apply to them. They fired the people who were in charge of FOIA. Donald Trump said FOIA does not apply to Doge.
It does.
Well, according to him, it don't. And that's and he's in charge. Remember?
That problem. I know that. And again, we have 3 branches. He's in charge of the executive branch.
Right.
But guess what? When he does something that's against the law, it's going to be fixed by the other branches. And that's exactly what's about to happen here. They are suing for Doge to force compliance for Doge with FOIA, and they're going to get what they want.
Unless they don't.
I think they will. And we can revisit in a month or two, in a couple of months, when the legal decisions come around. But I'm telling you, our system works, and it's going to work in this case too.
Firing of FOIA officers leaves experts worried about public records and access under Trump. I'm worried that it will be too late by then. They are moving very fast.
Why were they fired?
Why were they fired? Because they don't want... Nobody knows. They're just doing whatever they want, man. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, have you looked into it?
Anytime that whole FOIA offices are getting fired, pretends terrible things.
That
the federal government.
well, portends terrible things, whatever. I bet you that a bunch of them were fired because they were all telework employees, and we eliminated that policy.
Okay, and now we have fewer people to do FOIA requests.
Sure,
Okay.
we do.
So
but,
then we
I
won't
mean,
get the information.
I doubt it. I've seen how I've seen how people on telework policies work in the first place. They're not working an 8-hour day. It is what it is. Like,
They were wasteful.
I don't necessarily think they need to, by the way, but yeah, the job that's being done by like 3 telework employees could probably be done by like 1 or 2 at the office.
And they're challenging this as well. It's going to come down to the courts, and it's going to come down to whether or not this administration has any honor in honoring court opinions. They're firing the people who keep the government honest. That's what it seems like to me. That's what it feels like to me. They're firing the people who keep the government honest. Yes, it's a bureaucracy, but that's necessary. Bureaucracy is the only thing that could be
If you go with
honest.
my speculation, they're firing people who are telework employees.
And that's
That's,
fine.
I mean, like,
then there will be
it's a
fewer-
difference in terms of the intent, right? You're suggesting that the intent is to obfuscate the actions of government,
yes.
whereas I'm suggesting the intent is to not waste so much money.
Well, at the moment, we can't verify the 55 billion because of that Elon's Doge has saved us. We can't verify.
Well, we can't versus, I guess it does say it's not possible.
Right,
okay.
because they're failing to give you the receipts.
Well, hold on a second. It's not possible to independently verify on the site with the evidence provided.
Right.
So theoretically, it would be possible. Has anyone asked?
Yes.
Is the question.
They've been sending
to
FOIA
who
requests. They have been sending FOIA requests, and he has been denying them. And Donald Trump said that Doge doesn't have to follow FOIA
I do not
requests.
believe that claim. Where is the denied FOIA request?
Doge's evasion of FOIA. Well, this is Trump and Musk are upending the federal government. Well, this is not being very fair. CNN made FOIA request about Doge, only to learn. I wonder what they learned. FOIA. Oh, come on, Christ Almighty, Internet. FOIA staff was fired. So CNN put in a Freedom of Information Act request with the Office of Personnel Management for information related to the security clearances for billionaire Elon Musk and other personnel at the so-called Department of Government Efficiency who had been allowed access to sensitive or classified government networks. The outlet got unexpected response. Good luck with that. They were just fired. The whole privacy team. An OPM email address wrote back. According to Tuesday's reporting from CNN, an OPM official told the outlet that the federal government human resources agency did not lay off the entire privacy team, but did not comment further on the matter. Definitely never seen this type of response in a FOIA request, said CBS News journalist. According to CNN, OPM's privacy team is tasked with ensuring the agency's data, privacy practices, blah, 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 blah. So they're firing the people who do the FOIA requests. And best case scenario, right now, the evidence provided is lacking because they haven't provided it yet because we can't get the information from them. If you, Thomas, paint the rosiest of pictures, that evidence will be provided soon. And if
that'd be great.
If I paint the grimmest picture, it's that they are lying a lot because they're full of shit.
It'll come out.
I don't know that it will. We're both making predictions, and my prediction is they're just gonna steal. That's what I think Donald Trump wants anyway. He wants to be Vladimir Putin. He wants to just take.
That's the nice thing about our system of governance, though, is that he can't. So
unless perhaps he were immune to criminal prosecution, which just happened last year. Unless, of course, he gets a fall guy like Elon Musk to blame for all the problems. Unless, of course, he ignores those other branches, or he ignores them by gathering power on himself.
Our problem then is that you have a very pessimistic view of our governmental systems.
No, I don't. I have a pessimistic view of Donald Trump and the people who support him.
Look, our systems of government, Trump, okay? Like, they outweigh his influence in every way.
Until they don't. What do you mean until they don't? It's unconstitutional for him to block the spending. They did it anyway.
No, it's not.
It is. And he
No,
did it anyway.
It isn't. I'll tell you. No. If in the budget it's specified we are going to send condoms to Mozambique.
Okay.
Okay. For him to block that spending, yes, that is not constitutional. His directive as the executive is to execute the will of Congress, right? That's his job.
Faithful.
However, correct. However, if that money in the budget is part of the presidential discretionary spending, as in, hey, head of the executive branch, we've given you a lot of jobs to do, and we want you to do them. Here's a bunch of money for you to use however you see fit in order to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's totally up to him what he does with it. So where was the USAID money coming from? Was it directed by Congress,
Yes.
or is that part of the presidential discretionary
Congress.
spending?
Congress.
Where in the budget?
They passed the budget. They gave USAID a budget and said, this is the stuff you use. If you disagree with who's in charge of USAID and what they're spending on, if you don't like the $50 million on Mozambique, put a new head in put someone in charge of USAID who's different. Put someone else in charge through Congress to get them appointed to that position. The president can say, I don't like the way you're spending. I want this person in charge. I'm going to put this person up to run the agency.
First of all,
and Congress can vote on
USAID
it.
is not even a program that was authorized by Congress in the first place. USAID was
When it got
created.
invented?
Yeah, USAID was created by an executive order.
Okay. So?
So it had, like, without even verifying myself, it has to be part of presidential discretionary spending. And if it's the president's discretion to make those spending choices, then it absolutely is legal for him to cut it. All of it.
Why are those people coming and saying it's illegal and it's unconstitutional?
Because they do that every time a decision is made at this level. It's always challenged.
And they have no leg to stand on. Is that what you're gonna say? They don't. That it's challenged and it's
they
just
challenge
wrong.
it and they lose.
And they lose.
That's it.
And if he's wrong,
I don't understand what our chatter is saying either.
What you said? He's all over the road. This guy's delusional. He thinks Trump He thinks Trump is house cleaning. Wonder what he think about the war in Ukraine. We can talk about Ukraine
if I were
in a
in
minute.
Ukraine,
I
the fuck
don't
does that even mean? We're not talking about Ukraine.
We can talk about that later. If not, or not, I don't care. What? There are congressmen saying that he's gone against the Constitution in canceling the USAID funding. So the Congress is saying he's not allowed to do it. It's being challenged in court, and if, follow me here, hypothetically, the judge says you're not allowed to do it. So the judicial and the congressional side have said it's improper for the president to have cut this. Then what? Did he do something?
Sorry, what was the question again?
Okay. The congressman has said it's illegal and unconstitutional for Donald Trump to cut this aid. And then he puts in a lawsuit. And then the judge agrees. And the judge finds that the president overstepped his bounds. What then?
So, a couple of
Two
things.
of the checks have both checked him.
Wait a second. If the judge finds that it was unconstitutional for him to cut USAID, then the money will be put back. The programs will come back. People will be hired back.
Uh-huh. And
If
Couldn't
the
you-
judge finds, actually, no, it's totally within the president's right to cut USAID, then guess what? It stays cut. And
Right.
either way, the correct legal outcome will occur.
couldn't you have put together a plan beforehand? Couldn't you have researched before? Can you not know the answer before you challenge something in court? Can't you make a plan, find out what's legal, what's illegal, and then just do that?
It's going to be challenged anyway, and the fact of our checks and balances is that it allows us to take action and expect to be challenged on it later.
And if you make a hasty action, you will make waste. You just described haste making waste. He made a hasty
It's
decision to cut U.S. aid, and in fact, he was checked by the Congress, and he was checked by, in my scenario, he's checked by Congress, he's checked by the
Haste can
judicial,
make waste,
and he has
but
to
I mean,
redo
look,
it.
we're looking at
What
a
is Doge
system
to
of
do?
governance
What is
which
Doge?
is full of bloat and incompetence and
They're lying to you. They're
No,
over-exaggerating.
they're not. I can
yes,
look
they
at, I can
are.
see our
They're
government and how it
exaggerating.
functions and see how bloated and disgusting it is
They're
and how much
exaggerating.
it could be cut.
He made hasty decisions, and if he's blocked, it will even under the scenario that we talked about, he would have to reinstate all that spending. Waste is what that is. That is waste. Doge is supposed to cut waste. You know what would cut waste? Determining what's legal before you make actions. That cuts waste. But that's not what Doge is doing. That's not what Donald Trump is doing. They're moving hastily, making waste, while looking into the camera and telling you that they're getting rid of waste. They're not. They're not getting rid of fraud. They're causing fraud. Doge is causing fraud. They are causing waste.
I don't think so.
And Elon Musk is abusing his authority. Doge is waste, fraud, and abuse.
It's not.
It is.
If we're cutting programs, you are eliminating waste.
Those programs were good
Some
for
of those
people.
programs are beneficial,
Right.
and we'll put them back. But
Wastefully.
let me put it this way. Let's say there's a house,
Uh-huh.
okay, and the house is dilapidated. The wood is eaten through by termites. There's mold. It's degrading. Now the foundation is fine. You don't have to worry about the foundation. What's the most efficient way to make that particular plot of land livable again?
Demolition.
I would demolish the house and put up
Great.
a new one on the same foundation if
Okay.
the foundation is good.
Okay.
That's what they're doing. Is they're finding the programs that are dilapidated and bloated and that we might not really need and cutting them. And if we find that we need them, we can put them back and it's all fine in the end.
Okay, great. I'm going to yes and your scenario here, your hypothetical. The person telling you that the house is dilapidated is the man who benefits and gets paid to build the new house. So I don't trust him. Under your suggestion, the house is dilapidated and ruined. The guy telling you it's dilapidated and ruined and unsavable is the man who builds the new house and profits
But I
from the
can
building
also
of
just
houses.
see that it's fucked up. Like,
I think he's lying. I don't trust Elon Musk. He
then
is
look
a
at it
liar.
yourself.
I
Do you
have.
not
I
think that we have
tried, and we
problems?
can't. We can't. Where was the thing that we can't independently verify the things that he says are true? We cannot. He has not proven his case with the evidence provided. I want Elon to provide evidence, and he hasn't so far. And when I go looking for that evidence, it seems that he is lying. It's hard to say how much is really being saved. He is not being truthful. He is not being transparent. He's not doing things in a bureaucratic way. An audit is a bureaucracy, is a bureaucratic action. And I think that Elon is lying a lot about how much he's saving.
How much?
By millions of dollars? For one, the spending figure maybe undercounts. I'm just looking for evidence. He's not providing good enough evidence to convince me that he's saving millions of dollars, which makes me think, then what the fuck is he doing? Probably something bad.
Okay, hold on. So the USAID programs accounted for about 23 billion, right?
Sure.
All right. So let's say they cut half of it. We're
Okay.
talking 11 billion right there.
Sure. Okay.
That's a lot of money, man.
Yes.
I mean, is
And-
it 55 billion?
Okay. Then why did he tell us 55 billion? That's what I'm saying.
They're saying that's how much they saved. I don't know
Trust
how much
me,
they've
bro.
actually saved.
He's telling you to trust me, bro. And the investigators.
Even if it's not at that level, I still think that the cuts are a positive.
Then why isn't he just telling us the real number? Is it an estimate? He's telling you to
It
trust
might
me,
be.
bro,
It could
and I
be an
don't
estimate.
trust him. In another case, Doge claimed $232 million in savings on a contract providing information technology support to the Social Security Administration. But The Intercept reported that only a sliver of the contract was canceled, a program to let us mark their gender as X, bringing the actual savings closer to 560,000. He said $232 million, and it was actually 560,000. Way off the mark. $500,000, but he said $232 million. Other
Interesting.
anomalies on this site this week were apparent even without much knowledge of the apparatus of government contracting. The apparatus of government contracting. Do you think that that's a complicated apparatus? I don't think Elon's smart enough to understand that apparatus. I don't think he's smart enough. And if I wouldn't hire a child to do my taxes because they're not smart enough. I think he is a child in one of the most complicated, as you said, biggest bloated bureaucracies that exists. And he's just going to take an axe to it. And we are all going to suffer.
Suffer is a strong word.
Dude, if they start cutting Medicaid and Medicare, people are going to suffer.
We'll see if that happens.
The Bangladeshis, or no, not Bangladesh. Where was the country? I've already forgotten where the country was. They're suffering from not having enough condoms now. In
Mozambique.
Mozambique. Yeah. Sorry, it's not a country I'm familiar with.
Okay.
So I forget. Mozambique is suffering from a lack of condoms. As it is.
Unfortunately, but
they're suffering. I mean, it might be a small suffer that maybe we're willing to take on. Maybe I'm willing to let them suffer for saving money. I might even be acceptable of that. But right now they are suffering from it.
Personally, I mean, I think condoms are something that you have to suffer in the first place.
Yeah, you have to suffer. Okay, so there you go. See, maybe we stopped suffering by letting them go raw.
Suffering from the world.
They're going raw. Yeah, and they're not suffering anymore. Far from fully transparent, the Wall of Receipts page acknowledges that it may contain some inaccuracies. Over time, the website will improve, and the updates will converge in real time. It says. It also promises to share data in a digestible and fully transparent manner with clear assumptions. So far, the site has not been fully transparent about the data it includes or about the changes it makes. Around the same time, the news organizations published articles on major inaccuracies. The Wall of Receipts website was updated to correct the errors without changing the last updated date. So he's doing that shit that he does on fucking Twitter when he lies about when things got updated and when they didn't. The contract list itself also represents only a small share of the group's claimed overall savings. The website says the effort has saved $55 billion in total, but has provided no details of it on its Wall of Receipts. The bulk of the money, top-line numbers, also did not change this week, even after the site fixed errors that inflated the savings of individual grants. I don't trust him. The 8 million, 8 billion, this one was interesting. One place where the office has more regularly communicated with the public is on social media platform X. Owned by Mr. Musk, it has repeated some of the same kinds of errors there. In one post, it was $8 billion mistake. The group claimed it had always used the correct $8 million in its calculations. So, in reality, they cut a contract that was $8 million. Elon says $8 billion on X. The site that's supposed to keep track of these things said 8 billion, and then when challenged and they said no, we looked into it, it was 8 million, they said it always said the correct number. And that leads me to George Orwell quotes. It appears that there had been demonstrations to thank Big Brother for raising the chocolate ration to 20 grams a week, and only yesterday he reflected that it had been announced that the ration was reduced to 20 grams a week. Was it possible that they could swallow it only after 24 hours? Yes, they swallowed it. 1984 shit. It's always said 8 million, but we can see that it didn't. They're lying to you. They're lying to everyone, and we just have to accept it because there is no bureaucracy to control them. There is no bureaucracy that you can find the information from.
Yeah, we should be able to get that information. I agree.
I hope we can. I'm worried that it'll be too late. Am I being hyperbolic and crazy? Yes. But I'm being hyperbolic and crazy about the unelected guy who's running the government now.
We live in a country where, for as fast as things are moving at the moment, it still moves slow.
I think that's a benefit of the government. I want the government to move slow. If the government makes a mistake, people die.
That's a perspective to take, and I get that. I'm painting that as a positive right now.
Okay.
In the sense that it will not be too late. We will get this information in a few months or maybe a year, and it will not be too late at that point.
I hope you're right. You're far more optimistic about these guys. And I think I'm optimistic about the government and the bureaucracy. I like those things. I think you mentioned it a minute ago that I was pessimistic about the government. No, I like the government. I want it to work properly.
I like our system of governance. I don't like our government in particular at the moment.
Okay.
I don't like the bureaucracy that has been created. I would like to see it toned down a bit. A slimmer form of government would be great. I think our system works the way that it's supposed to. We have a judiciary, we have a Congress, we have an executive branch.
Okay. Can I
Like-
show you something that also makes me nervous?
Sure.
Okay.
What is and hold on, since it seems we're at a transition point.
Sure.
What is this guy talking about?
I don't think he likes you.
I don't think so at all. I'm a moron asshole, apparently.
Right.
Great.
Getting shot at. Yeah. The government is a system of people.
Why is my family fucked?
I don't know. Attitude about parents, son, fear of families. I don't. He's very excited. Make better points. What you see is. I suppose that's what you see is. Oh, what you see is.
What uses?
What you see is. Make a point. Make a better point. Tell me what you think Thomas is incorrect about. His name is Thomas. He is a very nice guy who wants to come to talk to me, the liberal left insane person. So we like that he does that. Let's see. Webcam screen. Here we go. Donald Trump accidentally says "I am the law," but then stops himself just before he says "I am the law."
The NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine.
Ooh, I can't hear this. Hold on.
Maine here, the governor of Maine.
I got it.
Are you not going to comply with it? We are the federal law.
I am.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's
we
not.
are the federal law. I think he slipped there. I think this is what he thinks. He thinks I am the law. I am. We are the federal law.
I mean, I disagree with him. Like, straight up. That's
Well,
fine.
you-
I don't. He can say that all he wants, but he's not.
Okay, I agree with you that he's not the law. He thinks he is. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm listening to the words that he says. I'm looking at the actions he takes, and it makes me think that he is and wants to be an authoritarian. He wants to be Vladimir Putin. He really does. He loves the way Vladimir Putin runs Russia, and he wants to be on that level.
I don't really have an interest in trying to figure out what's going on in Trump's head. I'm looking at what is he doing, and I'm mostly fine with it. So,
Okay. I mean,
he
you'll be fine
says
with
I
it.
am the law, but like he's not though. The law is the law, and
Well, shouldn't we
when
not
he
allow him to be
when
in
he
charge?
does things that he's not supposed to do, he gets checked by our other two branches,
Until-
and that's exactly how our system's supposed to work.
Until he doesn't, in which case I am the law becomes the law, reality. I am the law will become reality if he can get it to be the reality. In which case, those checks, those balances, that system ceases to function.
That is so far beyond where
No, I was telling you,
country
man,
is at
we're
right
an
now.
inch away from
No,
it.
man.
We are an inch
we
away.
are miles away.
We're an inch away from that. Elon owns the Treasury now. Donald Trump brought the FEC and the SEC and the FCC under his direct control with that thing I showed you earlier, with that executive order they pushed out earlier. If he is gaining more power every day, and with that more power that he gains every day, he will have the authority and the power to ignore what the judges are telling him. Or he'll just
Yes,
find
this
a
is
different
live.
judge. Yeah, Valiant Thor, this is live. Thanks for coming. Thanks for saying hi. Tell us what you're thinking. Tell us what you're feeling.
I disagree.
What is the line? Is there a line that you think that
So,
crossing?
well-
Is there a Rubicon to be crossed? Where would you put it? I think this is
Rubicon to be
a
crossed.
Rubicon.
So
Yeah.
I understand this is the Caesar reference.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, executive orders that they don't take control of anything. Just about every government agency is already under the authority of the president.
They were independent. The ones that were labeled as independent have
Yeah,
lost their
but
independence.
Are they really though?
They were, yes. They were independent. Now they're not. Now they must answer to
If-
Donald Trump.
If they function under the executive branch of the government, which every agency does, then they're not independent. Like they exist under the authority of the president, whether the president says they're independent or not. That's how they exist. Is they are a part of the executive branch, and he is at the head of their chain of command.
Okay.
Like full stop.
was Joe Biden
the
choosing
Rubicon-
who to the FCC should and shouldn't fine?
No,
Okay.
and I don't think Trump will either.
He could, according to that latest one of the executive
He
orders he put out this
could,
week,
and
he
so
now
could
can.
Joe Biden.
If he
at the
put out
time.
that, if Joe Biden put out that executive order saying I'm in
No,
charge of the
he
FCC,
could have done it without an executive order. And I didn't read the executive order. I'm not sure what the
Okay.
purpose of it was. So I'll have to go back and check that one out. But regardless of what stance a president takes towards a particular executive branch agency, the president is still in charge of it.
Fine, he's in charge of it. But if he's given them independence, autonomy,
And so hold on, even from the standpoint of I'm not going to touch this versus I like to have control over things,
Mhm.
it is his prerogative as the president to have direction over executive branch agencies. That's just how it works.
okay.
So I don't see the problem.
So he's
here.
allowed to remove the autonomy. He's allowed to remove the independence.
He's allowed to remove the veneer of independence that never actually existed.
And why would he do that? What's the next
You
step?
have to ask him.
Oh,
I don't know.
he has talked
Now,
about how he's going
As
to
to your
control them.
question
He's going to point
as to
them
your
at
question-
what to do and when.
about a Rubicon to be crossed.
Okay.
A Rubicon to be crossed would be the elimination of our other two branches of government. That's what it is. Is at some point, if our congressional system and our judiciary cease to be effective, they don't have to be eliminated completely, but if their effectiveness is not recognized, that would be a major problem.
Ignoring a
Yes.
court case, ignoring a court decision
Sure.
would be a Rubicon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
The reason I suggest that we're close to it is because if Congress said this money goes to USAID and he and
They
Elon
didn't.
have said no, then he's doing the thing. He's making them useless. He's making them of no value. If they pass a budget and he disagrees with it and he and Elon just don't give the money out,
Okay, and here is
He's
where I
crossing
will
that
provide you
Rubicon.
then with some solace.
Okay.
If that does take place, I will be on your side.
okay, I think it's coming. I think we're inches away.
I don't think it is.
Okay.
But if that takes place, you will be correct.
And
Okay.
what?
And in that case, I think most of the country will also agree with you.
Unless
The thing
Twitter
is
told them
that
otherwise, unless they've been tricked by media into saying that it's okay for him to do that. It's okay. We've got the unitary executive theorist here on Fox News tonight, and he's saying that it's not against the Constitution for Donald Trump to make this decision. Because that's what'll happen. Sean Hannity will come out on
I don't think
TV
that's how
and
it's
tell
gonna
you
work.
that it's fine. It's okay, actually, for him to change this part of the Constitution. I mean, they're changing the 14th Amendment. I know
they're not changing anything. They're
trying.
they're challenging the interpretation,
They're challenging the
which
interpretation.
is perfectly valid.
And if the media is going along with it, the people might not know. People might not. pay
For the
attention.
record, it takes, in terms of changing the Constitution and making amendments to it, it requires a supermajority in
Sure,
order
to
do that in
actually
Congress,
change the word.
It actually requires a constitutional convention in which at least 2/3 of the states agree on
Sure.
a change to it.
to
which-
change the wording. But he's not going to change the wording. He's
The-
going to change what the Supreme Court says is
Well-
and isn't an acceptable interpretation. Changing the interpretations is much
that's-
easier.
He's not making that change. He is challenging the currently accepted interpretation of the 14th Amendment, and the Supreme Court does change their opinions from time to time on on that particular subject of the interpretation of the Constitution.
Sure.
It's how you get things like Roe v. Wade and its eventual overturning. But all of that is part of our system.
Okay. And
I'll tell you what the most concerning thing to me would be is if we actually had a constitutional convention. That would scare me.
the left has been calling for one for a long time because there's things
Well,
like
that's
that
because
they want.
you guys don't
Yeah.
like things like the Electoral College and whatnot.
Right. The Electoral College is a bad idea. We should fix it.
But
I agree. But
an actual constitutional convention that took place would be one of the scariest things in terms of our political stability to me.
okay, interesting. I could agree that if we had one, it could change things quite a bit.
That is the nature of such an event, yes.
Okay.
How much it can change
How much it could change.
our
Okay.
situation.
I agree that it would be
Yeah.
a thing that I would watch. I would live stream it. And then if it goes wrong, I'd complain. And then if a whole lot of people thought it would go wrong, they would all loudly complain and or violently riot. I can see how that could happen. I would agree with you that would be a very complicated and difficult situation.
Well, you have to think, like, a constitutional convention, what does it do to the country, right? Why are we having the constitutional convention in the first place? But the other thing that's concerning about that is that when you open the floor like that to make changes to our founding documents, right? What you're doing there is you're opening the floor to everything, right? Our current system of governance, which has those three branches, is on the table when you have a constitutional convention.
Sure.
In all of the things that we're talking about now, those things are not really on the table, right? But when you have a constitutional convention, they are. That's what's scary.
I think Russell Vought, the guy who wrote Project 2025, and the people who support 2025 would favor a constitutional convention if they thought that the outcome would benefit them. And they can't get the people together for that. They can't get the votes for that. They can't get the number of people necessary, the number of states on board with them. So they're doing it a different way. They've gone to hire, to push for right-wing judges. You get the Federalist Society that pushes right-wing judges who interpret it the way they want. You get Donald Trump elected and doing things and passing all these executive orders, which I think, and gathering the power under himself so that they can make these changes without the Constitutional Convention, without the courts, without the Congress telling them not to. And you're right that the judicial and the congressional branches should be checking the president's power. I have a feeling they won't.
So
because
you're suggesting
Congress
that the
is
other
Republican.
two branches of our government are going to act in dereliction of their duty.
Well, it wouldn't be dereliction.
Or they're going
the
to
Republican
abandon their
head of the
duties
House,
and
Pastor Mike Johnson, who's the Speaker of the House, will say Donald Trump is allowed to do that. The Republican who's in charge of the Senate will say yes, Donald Trump is allowed to do that. And in the judicial system, which is now what 5-4? No, it's 6-3 of conservative judges on the Supreme Court will say yes, Donald Trump is allowed to do that.
So it's not. So it doesn't matter what Congress says. Any member of Congress says is allowed in terms of what the president can do. When they pass laws, those laws are what the executive is supposed to execute. You know, it is the judiciary that is meant to ensure that the laws are being carried out as they're supposed to be.
Okay.
So you can have the concern that the Supreme Court is nominally picked to
6-3. Yep.
Republican.
How many? I think he put 3 of them on there, didn't he?
But with that in mind, their responsibility as the Supreme Court and as judges and as judges across the country is that they are supposed to be impartial to politics and predominantly focus on interpretation of the law. Those judges were not selected, I don't think, because of their political leanings, but because of their tendencies towards the interpretation of the law.
That is political. Their tendency towards the right-wing.
It serves a political purpose, but hold on. It's the difference in believing that the Constitution is a political a living document versus the Constitution was written as intended. So you've heard the terms originalist.
Yeah, I think it's horseshit.
Yeah, I get that, and I can appreciate that that feeling about originalist interpretations. Most of the people who have been appointed by, the Trump administration and previous ones, we say 6-3 in terms of right versus left, but it's really 6-3 in terms of originalist versus living document interpretationists.
I would agree to that.
Would you say that's accurate?
I would agree with that. Yes.
Well, here's the thing: is originalists tend to stick to the Constitution even against the will of whatever party supposedly they align with.
Okay.
So in the event that Trump does something that's unconstitutional, I very much expect the Supreme Court, with a majority originalist interpretation, will go against him on that.
I hope so, but I don't trust them. When a judge that high up says they're an originalist, I think they're disingenuous. I think they are doing whatever the hell they want and calling it originalism. They'll find whatever excuse they can. They have started. They haven't done the scientific method. They've done the religious method, where they start from the end point. I like this. What's the evidence that backs this up? And then they call it originalism. That's what I think. It's the feeling I get from them. But you are right that originalists would be against Donald Trump ignoring Congress and disregarding the judicial decisions that they make. And I hope they hold. I don't trust them.
It's fine to not trust people.
Okay.
I'm just more optimistic about those chances than you are, I suppose.
Okay. And that gets back to where I think we always end up. I don't trust the people who are pushing that idea. I don't trust Elon Musk. I don't trust Donald Trump. I don't trust the Supreme Court justices. I don't trust the Federalist Society who put them in charge.
When you get to that level of power, you never should. You never should trust anyone at those levels.
I mean, what's her name on the Supreme Court? Amy Coney Barrett. Yes, that's her name. Said the Roe versus Wade was settled law. Then she voted to overturn it. If it was settled law, she would have said, well, that's how it is. She wouldn't have overturned it.
Settled law itself is not a thing.
I know, but why did the liberals ask her about Roe versus Wade? They wanted to know whether or not she would overturn it. And she said it's settled law, which suggests that she's not going to vote to overturn it. Yet she did. I believe her to be disingenuous.
That is a fair thing to assume of anyone, I suppose.
Okay.
Again, I don't necessarily trust any individual at those levels of government.
Okay.
I don't. It comes off as though I trust Elon and I trust Trump and whatnot to do the right thing. But
do you? I don't think I've ever asked you. Do you trust Elon?
Oh no.
Okay.
But
you trust the system.
Look at the things that are being done.
Okay.
I'm happy with them, and yes, I absolutely trust the system that we operate under our Constitution. To when there is a problem, it will be fixed.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that too. I trust the system as well. It's just that
what you so scared of?
They're undermining the system. They're lying to you about what the system is doing. They're dismantling the system. By throwing out the attorneys general, they're dismantling the system. By firing the people who do the FOIA requests, they're dismantling the system. The only reason they would dismantle that system is because they are about to circumvent it. They're about to circumvent it. They're firing all of the prison guards so that a prison break can happen. They're firing the cops so that they can drive faster.
Oh, well, no, hold on. You went a different direction.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm rambling. Go ahead.
Those systems will still exist. They're not going away, and they will eventually prevail, I suppose, over any challenges to them. Presuming that we don't end up with a constitutional convention where, the systems go away. That
I hope that those systems still exist, but it seems to me like they're drilling holes in it. I know I don't want to start a whole new. I was thinking about wrapping up here in just a few minutes, and I don't want to start a whole different conversation. But you and I in the past have had a conversation about the abortion issue, and I made a analogy to the fact that it was a stable base, but the conservative people, the people who really dislike it, drill into the base. They pour acid onto the base. They chip away at the base one little bit at a time until the base collapses and cannot hold. And I think that's what they're doing here. I think Elon is removing parts of the system. He is chipping away at that system that you are putting trust into. He's throwing out people who would challenge him. They're pouring acid onto this solid house frame so that it will collapse.
If that was what they were doing, they'd be drilling holes and pouring acid into the wrong places. There's nothing about the USAID that is, making up our system of government. Like,
Baby steps.
trashing
You start small.
the USAID is not going to harm or even influence our 3-branch system, right? Everything that Doge is doing it takes place in the executive branch, which is the only place where they have authority.
Okay, yeah.
And
they
so-
only have authority in the executive branch. I agree.
And so, for what you're suggesting to take place, they would have to start operating in the legislative and judiciary branches, which is not possible. And if they did, then I could see cause for concern.
Okay.
But at the moment, all Doge is doing is cutting shit that's in the executive branch,
Okay.
which does not undermine anything really, except for the reach of the executive,
Okay. And
realistically.
and I think that's a fair assessment of what's going on so far. And I am preaching doom. I am prognosticating on what their next step will be. And I think their next few steps will be outside the executive.
Interesting. And where do you think that's going to come from?
Oh, the FCC. Donald Trump is going to specifically decide which broadcasters get fines and which don't. Fox News does not get FCC violations anymore. None. NBC, if you say a thing he doesn't like, FCC fine. ABC, say a thing he doesn't like, or say that a true thing about Ukraine, fine from the FCC.
You know what we have, though?
Have what?
We have the Bill of Rights.
Well, that's
And guess what? When
Delightful.
if he were to start targeting things with the FCC specifically,
okay.
guess what's going to happen?
Okay.
A judicial challenge.
Great. If that were your plan, I'm going to put myself in his evil shoes for a moment. I really want the FCC to start fining people. The first thing you would do is create the executive order saying that the FCC reports directly to the president, and the president decides every action the FCC does.
So I want to.
I'm working backwards here, but yes.
I get that. I want to talk about standards for a second.
Standards. Okay.
The thing about standards is that when you apply them, they apply to everything, or they apply to nothing.
Okay.
And so, let's say that Trump decided, I want to fine ABC for this transgression, whatever
Okay.
the transgression is,
Mhm.
right? If Fox had the same transgression and was not fined for it, there would be a violation of standards, and then you have unfair treatment, and ABC would then have grounds to challenge that standard in court, and they
Right.
would,
And
because
that's part of
when
the
you have
executive order.
standards that are applied unfairly, they're not standards at all. I think the idea that the FCC is going to be able to be wielded as a hammer
Mhm.
against things that Trump doesn't like is overblown. We
think
have
it's the next
standards,
step. I think it's about
and it's
to
going to be
happen.
a question of, are we able to, or not able? Are we going to enforce standards, or are we not?
Well,
And I think
those standards would require an independent FCC, wouldn't it? Independent of who is the president. If Joe Biden decided that Fox News gets fines and ABC doesn't, I'd be upset with that.
well,
I don't think
Again,
Trump's
fines
his fans won't
for
be upset
what?
with this. Fines
Is
for
the
the
question.
things they said or the reporting. He sued CBS for millions of dollars for editing the Kamala interview, and they paid him.
I would give this
They're-
a little time
they're
and
with-
see if there is an unfair application
Okay.
of standards.
It hasn't
And
happened
then- It hasn't. And if it does, then again, I will agree with you.
Okay. And if
And
a court,
I bet you
if a court
that
finds,
the court will too.
okay, if the court finds, if it goes to a circuit court judge that is, if it goes to what's her name from fucking Florida, Cannon, Judge Cannon, who bent over backwards to help Donald Trump through his court cases over the past 5 years. If it goes to Cannon and she says no, the executive branch is allowed, because of this executive order, to determine who is and isn't getting these FCC violations, it's over, right? The executive said a thing that he can't. Does that make it legal?
No, it's not over.
I think it's over at that point. I think it's entirely too late by that point.
Nope. Because you also have an appeals process, and Cannon's not the highest judge in the land.
I know. But
So-
then it gets to the 6-3 conservative,
The originalists, yeah.
the originalists, and they say it's fine.
Uh,
Revolution? Is that what we do?
I don't
we start
think they
shooting
would.
people? We start shooting at the White House? We start revolution? Because that's the only thing that happens after that. The law doesn't matter at that point. If we get to that point, and I think we're close to that point.
So, under your hold on, just to make sure that we understand where we're at right now. We have had an overstepping of executive power that has gone unchallenged or even allowed by Congress and the judiciary, which we are upset about, right? Okay.
He fined ABC for saying a thing that's true about Ukraine.
So, if it got all the way to that point, and fucking finding ABC, let's just go with something else that's actually relevant to us as people. Anything else, but if it got to that point where there was an overstepping of executive power that impacted our lives, that Congress allowed and the judiciary allowed, even though they're not supposed to, right? And most of us agreed about it, then yeah, you do a revolution.
Okay.
That's what happens.
Okay. But I think that is not an out of a crazy thought. He starts finding the people that disagree with him. He's ABC. Why you don't think that's possible? ABC says something about Ukraine. He literally said Zelensky's a dictator and Zelensky started the war. He literally said that the other day. If I say Zelensky was properly elected, he is not a dictator, and Donald Trump is wrong that Zelensky started the war, and he wants to find YouTube for the words that I said, and YouTube sues him and does not want to pay that fine, but then a judge says, yes, the FCC is allowed to levy that fine against YouTube for the words that Waldo said. Where are we? He said, I said a true thing. It's illegal to say that true thing. The YouTube gets fined. They don't want to pay the fine. The judge upholds the fine. Donald Trump gets to wield the FCC as a weapon.
Yes, he does.
At that point, and this hasn't happened yet, but I'm thinking that's what's about to happen. I think that's what's coming. He's going to start wielding these things as weapons. Cash Patel, if you listen to, I know I'm changing the subject a little bit, but
I see where you're coming from.
The FBI is going to investigate, what's his name? Chuck Schumer. For what crime? They're going to go looking for one until they find one. If they're going to make some shit up, they're going to invent some crimes. And I'm going off the deep end now. What was the other person? AOC was speaking the other day. She is a member of the legislature. She explained the law on a webinar to the people in her district. Those people were illegal immigrants. She explained what the rules were and what they were required to do and what their rights are. Tom Homan wants the DOJ to investigate her for committing a crime. The DOJ is about to become a weapon. The FCC is about to become a weapon. The SEC is about to become a weapon. The FTC is about to become a weapon. Donald Trump owns the stock market now. If he is unilaterally in control of what the SEC does, and you have suggested that he could be and should be, he can make decisions on who gets fines from the SEC and who doesn't. Meaning
I suppose
he gets to. If he owns the stock market, Elon owns the Treasury, and Trump owns the stock market.
I don't see why this in particular is so concerning to you. Actually,
it's very dangerous.
We hold the president accountable for most problems in the country and or world.
How do we hold him accountable?
Oh, we elect someone else when we don't like them.
4 years from now, we get to elect somebody else.
Yeah, 4 years is not a great deal of time when it comes right down to it, in terms of how long a president is in office. 4 years is not a ton of time. It feels like a long time, but it's not. And especially, we just talked about how long it takes to get anything done in government. And with the powers that a president is supposed to have, 4 years is not a long time to get a whole lot done. You elect somebody else.
Okay. I hope
That's
we
how
get
you
that
hold
far.
them accountable.
I hope we get that far.
But even beyond that, the fact of being accountable to the people implies a degree of control, right? Everyone always says, like, how, you really can't blame a president for the economy, which to some degree is true. The economy goes, it ebbs and flows in waves that are irrelevant to the person who happens to be at the head of the executive branch at the time, right?
Well, he can pass laws. He can.
He can. Yep.
Put
and I've made the
regulation.
same argument.
He can put
Yes,
regulation on certain industries.
To an extent, there is
He can pass
influence that can
tariffs.
be had, right?
He can
Yes,
pass tariffs.
correct. And yes, there is a degree. But if we're going to put that accountability on somebody, and we do, we should expect that they also have a degree of control over those things. And they do. And everything that falls under the executive branch is something that, at least in theory, should be at the direction of the president.
I agree. That's the system we have set up. They are the executive branch. I
Yes.
would prefer them to have
and so-
independence. That independence is gone.
Well, that independence would have to be, if that's what you want, you would have to establish those agencies under the legislative branch instead, or create
No.
an independent branch of agencies that are not governed by the executive or the legislative or the judiciary, but instead operate on their own. Because if you have something that's in the executive branch, the president has control over it, whether we
There
call
is
them
no
independent or
independence.
not.
Okay.
There is no independent agency of the government.
It used to exist.
It did
It
not.
used to. It did.
We said it did. It didn't.
Okay. Well, the law is just ink written on a chopped down tree. The Constitution is just ink on paper. Under
Do you
that
really think that the
theoretic-
SEC was never accountable to the president until?
I think that they
when?
they were independent of the current president, but the president had authority over them. Yes, he had authority over them. Joe Biden had authority over the SEC, but he's not using it. He did not put out a specific executive order telling everybody, hey, I'm going to use this any way I damn well feel like, which is what Donald Trump has
hold
done.
on, because now this is a different. The issue that you were bringing up was the loss of the independence
Right.
of an agency, which
Right.
I'm saying never existed.
It was implied.
Okay, so now you agree the independency of those agencies never actually did exist. However, you
We acted as if
are
they did.
uncomfortable with how the president is choosing to wield his authority over those
Yes,
agencies.
I
Now,
am
that's a
uncomfortable with the way he's.
different problem, and that's not what we've been arguing.
How is that any different? Authority is another one of those thought
Existence
processes.
of independence versus not, or the
Independence
way
is
that
another one of
authority
those
is
thought
built.
processes that isn't on the
It's-
periodic
it's two
table.
different things.
They had some independence, and now that Donald Trump is in charge, he put out an executive order telling me that they don't have that independence, and he is in charge of them, which has also always been kind of true. They had some sort of authority. He always had the authority, but now he's letting you know ahead of time. I own this. This is mine. They report directly to me and do what I tell them to do. That is what he's telling us with his executive order. He's saying they belong to the executive and they will do only what I want them to. It's an authoritarian move. It is announcing authoritarian ideology.
I don't think so, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Have you ever seen what someone does when they think they're not accountable to anyone?
If they show their true character, I suppose.
Yeah. Sometimes it's not great.
I agree.
But the instant that they are made aware that someone is watching them, someone is paying attention, who also has authority over them, suddenly their behavior changes,
yes.
right? And that behavior change can be positive.
It can be, sure. The boss walks
Well-
in and you get to work. I dig it.
There you go.
The-
An independent agency, in my mind, and this is a very optimistic view on things, I'll admit, is it's possible that they may have, gotten a little big for their britches. Oh, we're an independent agency. We do whatever the fuck we want.
Okay.
Hey, by the way, I'm in charge of you, and
Right.
you work for me.
So he's
And
showing
now,
his authority.
let's see if you're. I mean, That's not necessarily a negative.
I recognize that the word authoritarian is mostly negative, but Donald Trump is asserting his dominance and his authority over these previously thought to be independent agencies. And,
yes, he is asserting his authority.
He's asserting his authority.
Your problem is you're concerned that he's going to abuse it.
Yes, he abuses every bit of authority he has ever had his entire life. And that is an entirely different fucking stream and an entirely different discussion. But I think he has absolutely abused every bit of authority he's ever had. But
we have to see if it happens, and it has been 3 hours.
It has been 3 hours. It's about time for me to end. I appreciate everybody who's here today. Thank you very much, Thomas, for coming in. I like talking to you. I will. Gosh, what are we doing? I'll be out on Wednesday. I'm out of town all next week. And so I won't have a Wednesday stream, but I should be back in for Saturday. But I might already have a guest on Saturday. I have been talking to somebody else who wants to come and talk to me on Saturday. So I may have somebody on Saturday. I'm working on that. Then, not kidding. I mean, I know that there are fours of people watching, but I really do want to talk to someone who has been laid off by the Doge. I think that the fact that CNN doesn't have a fucking person every hour who is laid off by Doge is because they're fucking complacent. But that's just me.
Or maybe it could be because when they call one of those people up and it's like, what did you do? And it's like, oh, well, I kind of just remote worked in for an hour a day and didn't do a whole lot. Okay,
then Fox News should interview them. How about that?
They won't take their calls.
They won't take their calls. Okay, great. So we'll never know. So that's it for me today. I appreciate you coming on. Thanks for being here. I will be back on Saturday unless the Gestapo kicks in my door and drags me off to the gulag, which is possible.
You're not doing your normal Monday and Wednesday streams?
Well, Monday I had to drop because I have a job. I don't know if you've. It's awful.
Right. Yeah.
It's gross and disgusting.
Those horrible things.
I gotta work and stuff like that. And then the editing of the videos takes such a long time that I don't have as much time as I used to. So I dropped the Monday. So I usually do Wednesdays, but I'm out of town for business on Wednesday, and so I'll be out for Wednesday. But I'll be back on Saturday, and I might have a guest on Saturday. I'm working on getting someone to come and talk to me on Saturday. So that is my upcoming schedule. Is there any other things you want to leave the audience with, Thomas?
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Have a good weekend, everybody. There it is. All right. Goodbye. I'm closing the stream.
I am the algorithm. Click on this video to make me happy. You wouldn't like me when I am angry.